Welcome to Haunt Weekly. Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this is Haunt Weekly, a weekly podcast for the attraction and entertainment community. Whether you're an actor, owner, or just plain aficionado, we aim to be a podcast for you. And this week, we're reviving a tradition at Haunt Weekly. And that is talking to people who are smarter than us about the things they're smart about.
Exactly.
And so, we're very excited this week to be doing a live episode. So, definitely take a moment real fast, and I got to get this plug in before we start. Find us at the places we exist. We're at hauntweekly.com, Haunt Weekly on Twitter, Haunt Weekly on Facebook, which is where we do the live shit.
Yes, and if you are there with us now, be sure to comment with any questions. I am monitoring it.
Yes, we are monitoring it. I think I can monitor it too. Maybe, I don't know. I'll be in and out on the chat, I'm pretty sure. But regardless, you can also find us at youtube.com/hauntweekly and wherever you get your podcast from. So anyways, we went to Transworld recently.
Yes.
And one of the great things about going to Transworld is you meet a lot of people.
We do.
And we met two wonderful people who are going to be joining us today. And honestly, I'm going to give as little introduction as I can because I want them to introduce themselves. So our mic just decided to go into business for itself. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I think you
I bumped it. Okay. But regardless, please say hi to Mike and Lisa from Rising Orchards, which turns into Rotting Orchards at Haunt Season, and who have something new-ish they want to talk about. Let's bring them on and see how it goes. All right, they are here. Mike, Lisa, hey, how's it going?
Everything's going good. How about you?
Going good. Like I said, it's been a bit of a struggle trying to get everything working again on the live chats. For those who don't know or haven't been to one of our live chats, we are in completely new digs.
Yeah.
Used to be we would record these from our haunt, especially during COVID times when we were not doing much with the haunt, but now the haunt is a haunt, and there is no room for that crap. So we are now using the back room of Ellie's Yarn Store, and it is quite cool, and it's great because it's set up as an AV space to begin with.
Yeah.
We didn't have to bring the internet to it. It came with an internet. But anyways, Mike and Lisa, thank you very much for joining us. So much to go over and talk about. So, hey, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Why don't you start, huh?
I'm Lisa, also known as Isa. I am an artist. I've done event planning. I am most passionate about, of course, the one time of year that I can put everything aside and work on our haunted house, which is 100% for charity. I am excited to be here tonight and talk about what we have on offer. And this is my husband, Mike.
Yep. Hello, I'm Mike. I'm the engineering side of our haunt, right? She's a designer. I'm an engineer. So two of us together have been.
We're a pretty good team.
We're a pretty good team. Just super excited to come and chat with you guys and talk a little bit about what we got going on.
A designer and an engineer as a team, that's a scary thought. That is a completely scary thought.
So how'd you get started with Rotting Orchards?
Oh, well, I was one of those kids that just fell in love with the community I was in. I grew up in this small town outside of Chicago that absolutely had a passion for Halloween. There'd be people that would dress up do you remember the 90s Batman movie that had Catwoman?
Yes.
There was a woman who would answer the door in the exact replica costume with all the zippers, all leather. Awesome.
I'm just going to say that some fetishes were probably born that day, too.
Probably.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. But the guys, before anybody else had them, they had because I'm no spring chicken. It was the full setup with the electric chair in the front and all the other good stuff. And it light a spark. And then unfortunately, our Girl Scout troop was thrusted last second into doing a haunted house. I was so excited. No masks, no costumes. I think we had a little bit of like toilet paper or some gauze or something. And we were just supposed to like stand around. And that's when I knew what I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
That was a good first lesson. But yeah, it all started in childhood, of course, because the awesome people who go out there and decide that they're going to turn their house into something spectacular for Halloween.
Yeah.
My story's a little different.
He hadn't even carved his first pumpkin until after he met me.
I still haven't carved a pumpkin.
My-
What?
I have never carved a pumpkin in my life. We actually talked about this a while back, and we meant to do it this year, but we lost the plot and it got too busy and it didn't happen.
Oh
Yeah,
no, you
I
have
understand.
to. But I do recommend.
But anyways, hadn't carved a pumpkin. Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
power tools.
So where I grew up in a really small town in Florida. So the trick or treating thing was not a thing. You didn't do that. You disappeared if you went trick or treating in my neighborhood, probably. So it was just not a thing. Like we didn't really get to do that much. When I was like a little kid, I wanted to do it so bad. I wanted it like Halloween, and then I would like get so excited. Like my parents would want to take me somewhere, and I get so excited I get like sick, and I would like miss Halloween like multiple years in a row from it.
But to be honest, that was probably the drive to really push us into doing our own haunt, is just so he could fully experience all the magic that Halloween can be.
Yeah, we were just kind of like decorating our house when we were living in California, and at the time, and decorating the house, and we just started. She was like, she started reminiscing about her haunted houses when she was a kid in her neighborhood, and I started thinking like that would be nice. That'd be kind of cool. And we just kind of looked at each other and went, "Let's do it this year." And that kind of started it, and that was over 10 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So one of you grew up with it, one of you didn't, and just jumped in literally to the deep end of the pool, basically.
Yeah.
Basically.
So
I mean, it wasn't that deep. It was only, the garage.
But it grows, it's yeah.
And as home hunters ourselves, saying it's just the garage really doesn't work, because
Yeah.
you know how much that can actually be.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just the garage until you decide you want to make all these wacky creations and build.
Then you end up with a carport tent in front of the garage,
Yeah.
and then you end up with stanchions, and you end up with 1,000 people, and you
And
end
a
up
show
multiple
for
nights.
the people that are waiting in line. And yeah, we've done it all.
Yeah. That's the one thing we have not done. We've not expanded outside the garage.
No.
But, yeah, and I don't think I want to, because like I said, the
Well,
Q line.
We do have Q line actors.
Yeah, we have the
who
Q line actor. We did all
interact.
that.
Yeah.
We did add that stuff, because like they said, you start getting 1,000 people, you're running a line, and you got to entertain them somehow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But no, that's really, really cool. So tell me about the haunt. I'm very curious about what it is and kind of the spirit of it.
Okay, so we are rotting orchards because where we started out. We started out in Campbell, California, which was a old apricot orchard. And the lady across the street from me got so excited that we were doing a haunted house. She actually brought out like 100-year-old farm tools for me to use in my haunt. She was like, "Oh, you're gonna be the orchard? Like, let me help you." I'm like, "Yeah, bring it, baby."
But hold on. Don't minimize this lady. She was
Adeline
awesome.
was awesome. She was this little old Portuguese lady that was roaching on 100, and she would tell me the whole area and the history of
She was an
everything.
original owner of this like 1950s tract home in this neighborhood, right? She lived there, the original owner there, and she was a ball of fire. She was like the fireball old lady. Like, I mean,
She was my very, very good friend. She was
awesome.
awesome.
But yeah, she brought all this stuff over. She was so excited about
She
us
was
doing
a little
something.
bit of an enabler.
A little bit.
Sounds like in the best kind of way,
So-
though.
We did that for years.
And honestly, it started out because I was like, well, we were in an old orchard, and I'm like, I want to be able to grow. Anything can happen on a farm, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you can have aliens come, you can have like the zombies come alive, you can have the campers being eaten by werewolves, like all the people that cross onto the
I
property.
mean, Jesus Christ, you could get a whole bunch of baseball ghosts to play a game of baseball. Anything can happen. Yeah,
But,
that's a good point.
we built it. We built it in a few years. We decided we were just going to be charity the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
we were just going to raise money for various different
It started out with UNICEF, then we went to Raising a Reader, Magic Wheelchair, and now we're with the Innocence Project. And it started like literally whatever we had laying around, thrown up on a wall. Like we did a spark wall that was close to. We were not chaos certified. We did bad things.
It started. It was funny. I was looking at stuff this week, actually, like some of the original things that we built, and it started with her going, "Hey, it'd be really great." Like the first electronic sort of thing I built for the haunt was like, "Hey, it would be really great if we had like a spark wall." And I'm like, "Well, doing it with a car battery is a bit dangerous, so let me build a power supply." And that sort of started the whole,
the rabbit hole.
And then she's like, "Oh, you could build that," and then she would be able to. Hey, could you like make a thing that does this so that like, and yeah, just kept.
But what we found over years and years and years of doing this, like there were some major inefficiencies. So like that's where we're trying to like better our game and finding out that there's a lot of other people that are in the same boat. And so we were trying like we had constantly messing with like the infrared sensor, trying to like fix.
Oh, you know it.
Like,
you know how it is, right? Like you're like, come on.
Raspberry Pis for everything for so many years.
So so that's kind of how it started.
Okay. We have a question real quick from the audience. Any 12-foot skellies at the orchard?
Oh yes. So we just got one this past year. He was holding the banner for the haunted house.
Nice.
Okay, that's actually a legit use of the 12-foot skeleton. I actually like that.
Yeah, we had one of those big banners made like years ago, and it was relatively inexpensive.
We're on a corner lot, so the back part, which is on like this main road through the community, he's like standing with all this uplighting with these in between two trees with like the moon behind him. It was perfect, and the banner, it looked great.
And it looked like he was holding it.
Awesome.
So yeah, it worked out really well.
So yes, we fully believe in our 12-foot skeleton.
It took us a few years to get one, but yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
We have not brought ourselves to pull the trigger yet.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of opportunities, but have not pulled the trigger. I don't know. We got to figure out what's storing the bastard first.
On top
Well,
of
you know what? I ended up buying 2 of those giant spiders this year because they did improve the quality, but they are stuffed under my king size bed.
Yeah.
With a couple of the Target ones too that were larger.
There's like a spider leg hanging out from one side of the bed, and it's.
There's a reason why haunters aren't victims of home invasions. There's a very, very, very simple reason. But yeah. So yeah.
You mentioned that you're now with Innocence Project. Just a fun aside fact: we actually live next door to the house where people.
The Innocence Project frees in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Kind of land after they leave prison.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
they
really
stay in right next door to us until they get at their own place or whatever their next step is in their journey, or they move in with someone else or whatever. So yeah, we live next door to an Innocence Project house, and we've met some really interesting people through that.
Yeah.
A lot of very scary stories about the justice system.
Oh, that's actually, it's kind of funny because this past year was the first year we did anything with the Innocence Project, and I was doing a bunch of research, and I was reading a lot of their sort of published papers, and like every 10 minutes I'm like, Lisa, come here. This is insane. Like, like read this.
I know about a lot of them, but he didn't fully understand like what everything the Innocence Project did. And so to get him fully on board, I'm like, just look into it. And he's like, oh my God, you gotta read this.
And then we had all the people that were volunteering helping us this year. Like they were up on it as well. And,
we had to educate them, and we found out like we had to educate quite a bit of the public. Like they thought they'd heard the name somewhere before, but they couldn't place what it was doing. And so hopefully it was beyond just raising some money.
Then you start saying like, hey, like wrongfully convicted people, and like, well, how do they know that? I'm like, well, because they put it like it takes a lot of money to get to that point, that's the point of the whole thing. Like,
like give an example from the people next door to us. We had a guy who spent, I think, 30 years in prison for a crime that was committed while he was one state over. He was in Texas.
And could prove it.
And he could prove it.
Wow.
And in Louisiana, it was especially bad because for a long time there, you only had to have 10 jurors for a conviction. And so that produced some bad results.
What are the other 2 doing?
But anyways, moving on back to the haunt
Yeah.
stuff. I think I do think the idea of working with a charity. Do you work with a different charity each year? Or you think you're going to stick with
We
IP
don't.
Innocence Project?
I mean, honestly, it started out that, it was just the little boxes of the money things that for UNICEF. And we're like, okay, here's a charity that could use some money. So we stuffed their little boxes. From there, we were educated on other charities that were needing more help in our area. Raising a Reader, we stopped using because Target was involved with them. They were getting a lot of funding through Target. The same with Magic Wheelchair. We had a lot of friends in the community. They're great to work with. They're really fantastic. And then we start seeing more corporations and larger things helping them out. I see a lot more individuals donating to the Innocence Project. And so we like to make an impact where it's.
Yeah.
So
impact for
to summarize that, right? Like,
We are not loyal to anything. We change when we feel the change is needed.
when one of the charities starts getting a bunch of money in, it's like, okay, let's find somebody else that can use, small sort of grassroots local stuff, right?
Because I think that's what haunts do best when they go for charities. I think they work best doing local charity work because haunts are fundamentally, especially home haunts, are fundamentally a community project. So it makes sense that any charity work would be community charity work. And the other thing about haunts is even if the money that home haunts donate isn't huge, oftentimes the exposure and the platform is what's more important than anything. Just getting it in front of that many eyeballs.
Again, people come and then they ask you what that charity is.
Yeah.
And then they're learning about it. And then they're like, oh, we should do blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yes, you should. Like, it's a wonderful way of advertising for a cause that's in need. And then I really wish that there was more done with that. We're in a neighborhood that likes to keep their own money and they aren't very giving. But like, it'd be really cool to see more fundraising things throughout every event.
Like we live in a fun side fact, I guess. We moved here to Florida 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, to our current community, which is a gated community.
Yeah.
And we do a home haunt in our gated community.
Which was an interesting thing to bring forward because everyone was so scared about it. Mike ended up programming a really smart thing that it was a private, and it was done like a speakeasy. So you had to message us via text. And then you would get a message letting you know that you need to tell us how many people, what day you're thinking about coming.
We did it 3 days this year.
And the day of, you would get the address and your time. And
so
the neighbors loved
it was sort of a dual thing. One was like, hey, it's a private exclusive thing, right? So we were like, send us a text message to get the details. You get the details the day of. But on the back end, right? Like, the real reason why was so that I could generate a guest list to give to our security people and know
beyond
who was
that,
coming, right?
Pearl clutchers, the freaking pearl clutchers.
Oh.
So
the community outreach part of it, the people like, oh my God, it's going to be these are Halloween people. They're going to destroy everything.
They wanted me involved with the children's coordinating events and stuff. And then it was the children's coordinator that came and was like, you can't have outside people on Halloween. I'm like, that's our biggest day.
So
They were afraid that the pled people would get the gated community kids candy. That was what it was all about.
That's basically.
And all the old farts in our community really, really want to see the trick-or-treaters.
Hey, we live in Florida. They're all old farts. So
we're getting up there too.
And I'm glad y'all were able to make it work. I know when we were picking, because I remember when we bought the house we have now, we bought it with opening the home haunt in mind.
Yeah.
So it's like, here are the requirements: large garage and no HOAs, no neighborhood associations, none of that. We want to be left alone. And but making that peace with your neighbors is so important.
Yeah,
because that's what kills home haunts is when they become bad neighbors.
There's a perception. I don't know. It's sort of like, I think somebody at Trans World said it best, right? Like, this community is basically the same sort of perception as like the tattooing community, right? And that, like, and the thing is that, like, there's this perception that it's just gonna be kids or like teenagers running amok, destroying everything, and it's like gonna be like an open air biker bar or something. And it's like, well, first of all, bikers are really cool people. Second of all, they're pretty chill. Second of all, you're giving them something to do. They're coming to a haunted house. They're not going to destroy your property.
No, and the kids want to be involved. The teenagers want to be involved. They want to talk to their friends. They want to bring their friends. They're
They
not
do-
gonna be
they know
doing
that-
anything
yeah,
else.
They don't want to ruin a good thing.
No.
They know that it's a good thing, and they know if they do something wrong, they're going to screw it up for everybody else.
And
Right?
unfortunately, where we live, it's nothing but like tons of planned communities and some grocery stores. There's nothing for the kids to do.
Yeah.
So, and that just drives me crazy, especially the teenagers. Yes, there's a children's coordinator, but like there's no events for anybody above the age of 8.
Yeah, but I would say I don't see,
Interesting.
I don't see
So,
anyone
yeah.
over 12 getting much from a children's coordinator.
Yeah.
The title
Yeah, you know,
alone
it's one of those
indicates.
things where the perception is wrong.
Yeah. So you did the speakeasy thing where you had people text you and say how many people were coming, what their names were, and so you could drop that off as a guest list. How did that change in your mind the experience for the people who did come through?
It ended up being really spectacular. They thought it was the coolest thing ever because they thought they were something exclusive, and it was. And so that it elevated the whole scenario for them coming through. It also worked really well because people weren't waiting in long lines.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing. So because we were giving back we were sending back information, to say, hey, the day of, right? Well, that was okay. There's a little trick here, right? So there's a little bit of fun. There were a certain non-zero amount of people that could not get the concept of you were going to get the details the day of. So they'd be like, I still don't have the address. I'm like, you're going to get the details the day of. But this is like a whole automated system. So it wasn't like, I'm sitting there trying to deal with text messages all day, but most
good.
people got it. Most people understood it, right? It was pretty clear. But then
You had a few.
we had a few. And then there was, but at the same time, we decided like, hey, we've got this list. We had a running list. We knew how many guests we were going to have, right, per day. And so we split that list into 2 separate sections, right? So like an earlier section and a later section. And then we just pre-assigned it. We didn't ask people like, which one do you want to go at? Because it's kind of like Reservoir Dogs. Everybody wants to be Mr. Black. Everybody wants the later one, right? So we sent it out and said, you're in this time block, and then you're in this time block. You don't have to show up. I literally said you don't have to show up in that time block, but it would, we would appreciate it if you could make that work, sort of thing, right? Like you can still show up when you want. And a lot of people generally sort of stuck to their time block. So we didn't really have like, this is the first time in years that we didn't have like a congestion of people.
No, and I even like for the old fuddy duddies in the community, I ended up putting out chairs on my driveway too, so people could just sit and talk to each other while they waited, because it would also be you get your turn in line and you get your ticket and then you wait to be called. So you could.
We're not that's the thing. We're not a conga line, right? Like
no.
we're a 3 in, 3 out sort of thing. So give them a ticket.
But the chairs were a waste. Everyone was so excited. They were up talking and they were just making a line through it. I was like, well, so much for that. I mean, you live and learn,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know that our neighbors tend to sit outside and listen to all of the screams. So maybe next year you could offer them to your neighbors.
Yeah, I mean,
observation deck.
Exactly.
The guy across the street is awesome. He lets me park my car over there for Halloween, and I had my cousin that was like coming too. So we had 2 cars on his circle driveway. I'm sure if you had like his little 3-year-old twins were looking out the window every day trying to like see what's changed and what's going on. They were having a blast.
Oh, they came by like every other day. They're like,
oh yeah, because they had to come pet the spiders and stuff. It was cute.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you got that relationship though with the neighbors, even though it was complicated by the gated community.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well. It was the funny thing was
where there's a will, there's a way.
Well, we have not only do we have an HOA, but we have like our gated community is 1,500 homes. It's a small city, and
there's a commercial district in the center of it with restaurants and like the Honey Baked Ham guy, tattoo shop, massage therapist.
We live on a cruise ship, basically.
It is.
It's a land cruise ship, but we have like a HOA general manager. We have a head of security and whatnot. And I went to them like well beforehand, and like they were all aware of what was going on. It was the community, right? 1,500 homes. There's no way they're all going to know. The community that didn't know. And I'm getting funneled like phone calls from them, like, "Hey, by the way, just letting you know, so like somebody called me, don't worry about it." But yeah, people were calling there, but it's sort of like, put your ducks in a row, go talk to everybody, make sure that the people that are important.
Shake hands,
know
kiss
about it.
babies,
Yeah.
Try and smooth things over before you do it.
Don't kiss, hand, shake babies. That's a different problem.
Well,
People don't
and
like
I'll
that.
say what has worked well for us: cookies,
Yeah.
Mhm.
sweets, bribes. Any neighbors that are like immediately close to you, especially we've
Yeah,
typically.
Ellie has really upped our neighborhood
What did we
game.
do this year?
Yeah, she's our neighborhood
Oh.
liaison. Basically.
I gave like the people who were going to be affected, like the little kids across the street, they got like these little shaker like pumpkin lights with the candy corn underneath, so they could play with those because they're 3. We do stuff like that all the time. But the thing is, my neighbor who bought the property next door to me, which is a vacant lot, actually came and got upset with me because she didn't get to see the haunted house yet, and she was so excited. She's super supportive, so good. The people who are going to build are supportive.
The people
Second
that
thing,
next
she
to us.
got really upset that I took down my skeleton. She wanted to see it dolled up for
Oh.
Christmas.
Oh.
Yeah, we had something similar though. We had a family that loved our skeleton display, would bring the kid around
Mhm.
regularly, and yeah, the same deal. We took it down rather than Christmasizing it this year because we didn't have a good idea really. We wanted to, but we were bone out of ideas.
Yeah.
So we ended up taking it down. But yeah, no, that's always sad when you take it down and someone comes and goes, oh, like I wasn't gonna leave it up for 12 months. I mean,
Yeah.
it had to come down at
Well,
some point.
Well, they're gonna have heartbreak next year because next year he's gonna be in the center of the yard with like all the we'll probably do the puffers and stuff behind him, but it's just gonna be coming next year because we're just planning on actually taking a year off, going and meeting with all of these people that we talked to at Trans World, gathering ourselves to launch hopefully in the coming year. But we're going to, instead of doing a haunted house this year, we're building our booth for Trans World. So our neighbors are gonna come and play with that and give us feedback, so it'll be even better.
And we're also, we've been doing this for over 10 years, and we've never really got to go see any of the other places.
True. Like we just decided, like after last year, I had gone so hard. I joke about in this industry, you sell out or you burn out.
Mhm.
And I went so hard that I was like, I can't do this again next year. Like people were coming in and saying it was better than in what Universal was doing.
We live an hour from Universal Studios, and we get a lot of people from over there. A lot of people that go there. People were giving us really great compliments on sort of the theming and the animation and all that.
I mean,
stuff.
I had all the neighbors coming to us and like, oh, you need to get with the community. We should be a stage builder. Or you need to do this
So-
and that. Like everyone was just so excited.
But it's one of those things where because we recently moved here in the last few years, right? Like we don't have the help we had before. So
No.
I did a record amount of carpentry this year. We did a lot of work, and she was just like,
Blood, sweat, and tears. I did find one person trying to find anybody to do webbing or that other stuff. But this one person came and like was rotting apples with me. So what I do for apples for a little orchard, get the foam apples and apply a heat gun.
Yeah.
And then you just like dab them with a little bit of the brown paint here and there, or you can do a little moldy spot or whatever. Super fast.
when you heat up one of those foam apples, it just shrivels up like an old like rotted apple. It like naturally with a heat gun. It just
I can see how
you
that
shouldn't
works.
breathe it, by the way.
No.
Don't breathe the fumes.
But yeah,
Well,
so that
ventilated
they
area.
got super excited about that, and they ended up working the front of the haunt, telling everybody about that they did that. So they took
They were
pride,
super proud.
and then they came afterwards to help us tear down. Oh my
Nice.
god, I had help with tear down. It was great.
So long story short, right? This next year is going to be for the first year we take a year off in over a decade, and we are going to go
And
tour everybody else's haunted houses, as many as.
But
we
we're
can
gonna
this
get
year.
the crew together, and because they signed up afterwards that they want to help build the next one. So we'll take this year to plan out what we want to build for next year, and it should be great.
Cool. That sounds really great. Earlier you were talking about how you had some technical challenges that as an engineer you were able to overcome. So I think you know where this is leading into. Would you like to talk about what you're developing?
We could talk a little bit about it. We have a lot of stuff up in the air right now. Just to preface it with, like, we have like IP attorneys and patents and all kinds of stuff in flight. But I'm happy to talk about as much as I can.
Okay.
Real quick.
So yeah.
Sorry. Where do you get your foam apples?
Great question.
I originally got them from the Dollar Tree. Those do much better at melting. The ones I got from eBay, I ended up using a blowtorch. Just letting you know. But yeah, if you can get the apples are pretty good. You can find them, and they were like green and red at the Dollar Tree. But I don't know if they still have them bulk.
This is
on
why
eBay.
haunters can't leave reviews for things. 5 stars, melts really well. Is not a review you would want on a foam apple.
These didn't melt like the ones at the Dollar Tree.
No.
What?
3
No, I
stars
had to get
did not
fired
melt
for
like the
that.
Dollar Tree. Exactly.
Okay. Sorry, back on topic.
Stay on target.
So-
Stay on target. No.
So we but anyway, so what were we talking? Oh yeah, we're talking about
Igor box.
Igor box, right? So again, we've been doing this for over a decade, and it started out with, hey, can you build this thing? And being an engineer, right? Like, yeah, of course. I mean, anything we could do anything.
He originally like had come up with the Igor box, but he wanted to make it something like the Boo box, and so we didn't realize until years later, because we didn't have time to work on it, it had come out, and that was cool. We're like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And then it became something much more.
So the challenge that we have is I actually gave a talk on this at I think HauntCon in 2017. We both gave talks at that one, and the challenge that we have was more of like, how do you program, like custom program, like larger props, right? Like this is where the whole thing stemmed from. So like you got these big props, right? That have tons of pneumatic actuators or servos and all kinds of stuff going on. How do you program as a DIYer? How do you program this stuff? And you can get an Arduino and program it. You're going to run out of outputs pretty quickly when you're doing those big ones. Also, the code gets really complicated really fast, right? You want to turn on one thing, or you want to like turn on a light, whatever. That's fine. When you start getting into like coordinating a bunch of movement, it turns into a nightmare, even for somebody who is good at code. I'll tell you all about my nightmares. So I gave a talk about how to use like multiple smaller microcontrollers and how to get all this stuff kind of talking and working together to like run a particular animated prop, a larger, more animated prop, right? Like moving fingers and stuff.
Years later, we were continuing to on our path to better things, working with infrared stuff and everything else, like trying to figure out home things.
Yeah, you get to that point where you got the passive infrared sensors, and they constantly like false fire, and you get something over here that's doing something anyway. So this past year, I built up a bunch of stuff.
We did. We used it as another testing ground because every year we're testing another new thing, right? So it was like 4 new things just because, and we were trying to get the feedback from that, and it ended up working really well. And then we had the realization technology has finally caught up to what we actually want to build. Yeah,
technology in the last couple of years has finally caught up to like this grand vision that we both had in terms of like,
because he wants me to be able to take his job with making things go and be able to run the show myself.
I want her to be able to design the animation, but I don't want to sit there and poke around in code.
Because he's tired. It's like, oh, I want to change the lighting. Oh, I want to change the sound. Oh, I want to change this and that. And so now it is the build for the master control to do all of that.
So the Igor box was sort of spawned out of this idea that, we should also mention, like, we went to Halloween Horror Nights. We're obviously big fans. And we did the Behind the Screams tour. We got to talk to a lot of people there.
And we realized we were doing a lot of the same things they were doing. And then we had to think, it's like, why is it not possible for home haunters or anybody, a business, it doesn't matter, to be able to run their show from one location, like one centralized thing to run the whole show.
Right, like your animations, your animatronics and animation stuff, your sound, your lighting, right? You should be able to run the attraction, right? Whether it's a garage with one room, 3 rooms or an 80,000 square foot facility.
Or even people with their Christmas lights that go out of control with that, and they want to put some Home Depot animatronics in or something. They should
we
be
don't know
able to
anybody
be
who does that. No idea what you're talking about.
So we were pretty inspired after going to Halloween Horror Nights this past year and realizing like, yeah, we're doing things differently than I think most haunters are doing things in general, because again, I sit and tweak with this stuff constantly.
We get frustrated and I'm like, honey, fix this. And he's like, no, it's more than that needs to be fixed.
And then you go there and you sort of see like, oh, they're actually doing stuff more like the way we do it rather than the way the rest of the industry does it. And like, we should democratize that.
100%. We want to bring that magic that's missing from another big park and make it available to everybody. Because there's no reason, like there's so much creativity out there. People are just brilliant, but it's hard for them, like for me, to be able to get it out there without his help. So we're trying to build.
Yeah, you have to get. You basically have to hire hire an engineer. We're not cheap to do this stuff for you, or we could put our heads together and take what we did this past year and productize it and bring it to the market and get people to give people something that makes it easier to basically be their own Imagineers, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about. At the core of it, there's a lot of details and whatnot that we probably shouldn't talk about.
We're still kind of wrapping up with the lawyer to try and get
that's the crux.
Patented and stuff. But we're trying to. If you give us some questions, we're able to we'll be able to kind of weave around and.
But it's born out of frustration, and honestly, it's at the end of the day, the coolest thing about going to Transworld, and we talked with so many people, and
they're so excited for it. They understand that there's the need there. You know, you want to be able to truly take control of your show and not like, we don't want to make it where you have to buy all new stuff. We want to work with what's out there now so that you can fully enjoy it and not be breaking the bank getting a whole new system. Yeah, it's not a replacement to fright props, controllers and stuff like that. It's more of a higher level construct that works with all that stuff. But talking with prop builders, talking with haunt owners, talking with all these people that were escape room people
super excited about this stuff, and that was obviously very inspiring. Transworld was amazing. I forgot how warm and welcoming. It's been a few years since I went to a convention, and how absolutely warm and wonderful the community is. Like, it really took us back for a minute because they were so excited, and they're like, there's a couple of them that were, how can I help? We really need to bring this for everybody. How can I help? And that's what we were there. I had my crazy backpack trying to sign up people for beta testing, and we got a response. And, nice. At the end of the day, like, the whole point of this is it's not about profits or sell. It's not about the business side of it. Like, we're both artists, right? You can sort of see, like, we're sitting in a music room right now. I went to school for music, but like we're both artists, and this is more of like a community effort, right? Like, we want to release this because we want to see people run wild with it and build their dreams. Right. So it's much more, it's much bigger than us just sort of like, here's what we do, buy our stuff. It's more of how can we together collectively, raise the bar of our art in home haunting. Yeah. Right. And that would be, really useful. You were going to say something? No, go ahead. Because I've kind of shied away from most animatronics and things like that. We like to jokingly. I don't know if you've seen the show Kids Next Door, but we refer to ourselves as built with 2x4 technology, the same concept. Yeah. Because we're very much carpentry and people power, but it's not that we're not. It's not that we're against it. Not that we're against it. It's just. The lag that's built that seems to be happening and everything else. Like, most of the time, the people are exiting the room while you're waiting for the stupid spirit prop to go off. You know what I mean? It doesn't. It's not that immediate feedback, and actors are great for that. And you have to build in some real, even for the animatronics to work. Yeah. Because if that real tactile thing isn't there, like the tree shaking or this or that isn't going to mean anything. Right. Yeah. They're not going to see it. They're going to be running through the room out the door. Right. So, but yeah, exactly. Right. Like, the point is I always joke about this, right? Like, I always say that, like, the point of all of this is it needs to be it needs to be programmable by mere mortals, right? Like you should be able to
Exactly.
think about, you should be able to take what's in your head and just go, I want this to do that, right? That's really what it's about, and be able to do it in a way that you don't have to worry about, like, oh, I messed up everything that we had worked. Like, you get it just perfect tweaked, right? And then all of a sudden you make a change and everything blows up.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to worry, right? Like, you should be able to go back to the previous version of it and all that fun stuff that comes with having a central control system like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and that sounds very appealing.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it might actually, inspire me to put in some animatronics and stuff if I know that I can control them fairly easily.
Yeah, and might rethink our current sound design practices too, because that's one of the things that helps run is the sound design.
Yeah.
So no, this sounds really, really interesting, and like you said, making it for mere mortals, I think, is a big part of the challenge. Because let's be honest, it's not.
I've noticed, especially like haunters are artists, and they don't like they get technical about certain aspects, but there aren't a lot of people who do code in the haunting industry that I've noticed. They tend to be the guys that are doing the marketing and the ticket sales and all that other kind of stuff. They hang on that end.
Yeah,
but I think you said it best, right? Most of the people we met at Transworld were theater
artists,
kids.
like
they're
theater kids, and
right?
it's awesome.
Like,
So we just need to make a palette that's easy for them to play with. We have to transition that. So it's just.
I mean, I went to a lot of the talks at Transworld this year. The technical talks and whatnot. I just kind of wanted to hear what other people were saying. And one thing that I did learn was haunters are very.
Oh my God, you guys are the most forgiving people ever. Like the entire industry.
Just deal with pain. We all just deal with so much pain.
It goes well beyond tech, believe me. I mean, we're going to have more on that later, but yeah, we're a very patient industry with our suppliers, with companies that are haunt-based. We take a lot of crap sometimes, and maybe we shouldn't.
Listen to somebody talk about DMX for 20 minutes and say nothing nice about it, but say it was the only thing that they could use. Right. The only option out there. And I'm like, yeah, DMX is a little bit complicated, especially if you're not coming from sort of that side of the world, theater lighting and whatnot. But listening to this person speak for 20 minutes about how terrible it was, and then tell everybody to go do it. And I'm like,
yeah.
Well, I mean, we're an industry of people that are used to sitting for hours on end in uncomfortable costumes and terrible masks that are probably choking the life out of us, inhaling God knows what chemicals. So yeah, we can be a little patient with the lighting infrastructure, I guess.
We do it for fun.
This is supposed to be fun, goddammit.
Exactly.
Like, we do all of this for fun. Like, what kind of masochists are we?
how many days? Let me ask you this question: how many days do you keep your haunt open?
3.
Huh?
3.
So
we did 2.
So we did 3, right? But you if you did you always get that like you did all that effort for only 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Right? Because honestly, the effort to have it for longer is way worse.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, a lot of work goes into building it and setting it up, but that's work you spread out over the year.
Yeah.
Where the work of being open is basically 24 hours of sheer insanity dumped on you at once.
Oh, you guys keep it in your garage all year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, like right now, my garage. I have like 2 walls that I made him keep up because I just loved them so much, and I was like, we can use these for videos. Trying to sell it. The rest of it was completely gutted. So for his electronics lab to build what we're building.
so Lisa had the most genius theming idea this year that like I absolutely love. She went to Amazon and she bought like photographer like backdrops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are some that are like old, like forest backdrops and stuff, and then we use those, and I built a window on top of it and kind of thing. But like they're still up in my garage because they take up no space and they just look cool.
Yeah.
Right. Don't get them wet though, as we discovered. They don't get them wet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that as a background, like there's no reason if you don't want to sit there and paint forever and a day these realistic scenes. Those backdrops are great for you to build on top of.
Yeah, and we built stuff on top of it, so then you sort of can't see where the two transition. People were literally touching the backdrop, like, is that real? That's not real.
Yeah,
cool.
We found that putting in those little details really help.
Again, like people don't realize how much detail goes in, but at the same point, they know when the detail's missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing. It's like people, because we are a fear-based industry, and what we're doing is trying to help people have fun through fear. It's kind of a lizard brain response to everything, which, like you said, they may not seem to notice or actively observe or make note of the detail, but it activates that part of the brain more.
Mhm.
That makes it feel more real. That's the
Yeah.
thing. You're always trying to sell the scenario. You know, you're selling this idea of
Yeah.
being on an orchard or in a witch's room or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
if you don't have that engage, like, and especially like with younger generations, they've seen like so much so soon. Like they're a little jaded.
The jaded Gen Zers.
So you've really got to go a little over the top to make that world real.
I sort of look at it as like you really want them to feel like they are legitimately part of the show, right?
Yeah,
I think
you are immersing them into their own horror film.
the best haunted houses I think I've ever been to view the every aspect of their haunt as legitimately like a live show,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right? And the guest is immersed inside the live show. They're on stage with everybody else, but they don't have any lines, right? And that's sort of the best ones I've ever been to, right? I think that's when magic happens, right? It's a show. It's every aspect of it is a show. What people say, what they do, where they move to, what the people that are like the volunteers or actors or the guests or whoever you're paying, whatever, they're all part of this collective show. Even the guests are when they go in and they're screaming and they come running out like scared, right? That's part of the show, right? Like
They're the protagonist. They're
Exactly.
they're the protagonist in the show.
Yeah.
They're literally the star. That's the whole point. They're the hero.
Mhm.
They're the good guy, quote unquote. You know, they're the conquering hero.
Yeah.
Even if they're doing it at 90 miles an hour as they run straight through the haunt. I mean, we'll take whatever conquering we can get.
straight through the black plastic wall that you put up the first year.
Yeah. Well, that was the first year. Yeah, that was not good. And then we learned that, you know, there's the fire retardant black plastic, and we've gone quite a ways from the original. But at the
Everything is bolted now. Like, you know, you want to run into a wall, you're going to hurt yourself.
Oh,
not
yeah.
the wall.
Oh yeah.
I have the unfortunate job in our haunt of wall tester, which usually entails me running and slamming my full weight against the wall to make sure it doesn't move.
we've been doing, because for years we had people going through even when it was drywall. We're like, what's going on?
No, drywall would not hold on.
Somebody run through drywall.
Yes.
They ran through drywall.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah.
We had someone run through a
I don't know
2x4.
And it was built every 16 inches with studs. They just managed to go
It's a
through.
legit real wall.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah, drywall will never hold up. We've switched entirely to plywood because
We've learned, yes, a lot of we have bear our scars with pride on these learning tales.
Yeah.
Like our journey has been tough.
Somebody asked us for some consulting time on like helping them with their haunt, and the first thing we were like, look, it's a lot more complicated than you think it is.
yeah. If you want to
Oh,
build
my
it and have
favorite,
it
though.
stand up for any length of time, yeah, it's more complicated.
Yeah, it's more
Oh,
complicated.
well,
And
what I
if
love
you
though is
actually-
like all the neighbors and everybody who wants to throw their parties wants you to bring your stuff so they could have a party, so you don't do
No.
your thing, and they don't really want to pay you. They just
Does
want
that
you to
happen
talk
to you? Does
Yes.
that happen to you, or is it just us? Like, I feel like it's just sort of like, yeah, you guys should come over, bring all your stuff. Like, no.
You want me to bring 30 panels and set it up? What's the plan here?
Mhm.
Transport
Like, and then
alone is
like-
going to be a lot of money.
How tired of you about like with the question about storage? Like, of course
Where do
it's
you-
going to take up space.
Where do you store it all?
We just leave it up. So
You know what? It all folds down into a suitcase. It's pretty amazing. Like, what do you
you've seen
think?
Inspector Gadget, right?
We have a TARDIS. We just throw it all in there.
God, yeah. Of course, it takes up space. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason we leave most of it up year round.
Yeah.
I don't
Ex-
blame you. I really don't. I just can't afford to do that right now. But
I
otherwise,
understand. Though.
Well, and you know, for your year off, it totally
Makes sense.
makes extra sense. You know, I kind of wish that we hadn't had ours up for the 3 years through the pandemic.
Yeah, because we were closed in 2019 because we had no road.
Yeah.
They tore up our road. We had no road. So no road, no haunt. And then 2020, 2021, we all know what the fuck happened there. We don't need to have a
Yeah.
conversation about that.
Yeah.
And then 2022 was the first year back. And Yeah.
Yeah, but we're tearing out
Significant portions
significant portions this
Yeah.
year.
Gotcha.
and rearranging. We're actually doing we're redesigning the layout. Historically,
Yeah. But
go ahead. Sorry.
anyway, so with your year off, you mentioned that you're going to go and visit some haunts. Which ones are you looking forward to the most?
The one that was most excited to work with us. So Fear Factory is something that I am so excited about.
Oh yeah, we had a chat with Spencer Terry about the Igor box actually at Transworld, and like he lit up.
And he was like, "What size of area do you want to try out? Do you want to try it versus a large room?
I got everything.
A
Whatever.
whole section? Do you want to do just an escape room? Like, where do you want to try? Or you want to try all of it?" I was like, "Yeah, bring it."
So we want to go see that Haunted Overload up in.
That's been on my bucket list.
Oh,
Obviously,
mine
I
too.
work. Well, I work a lot with natural materials constantly. So
Rotting orchards.
kind of a given. The fact that they're on old orchard property and they've got everything else, and it is a lot of it is like if you're going to see a haunt that is most like my style, that's done by a professional, it's definitely Haunted Overload, and so I have to go see it in person.
We have a list of like cannot miss from Alex from When Henges Creek.
Yes.
We told him that we were doing this year.
And believe it or not,
And he was like, I'm going to send you a whole list. You got to go to all of these. And I got like a whole list of like
we have to
ones
go to
I've never heard of that I'm like, okay, it sounds like
there's
that's
a lot of great
hell
ones, but like the one that I can't believe I kept missing out on for whatever reason, I was never able to make it into Hell's Gate, even though I grew up
Oh yeah.
in the Chicago area.
And we lived in
again.
Chicago for 4 years together. A lot like most recent place we lived, and yeah, we never got to go.
Yeah,
So,
Hell's Gate, I highly
yeah.
recommend. And if you can get the behind the scenes tour, do it.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely the behind the
That
scenes
sounds
tour.
fun.
John LaFlamboy showing us how he designed Hell's Gate literally changed everything I think about haunt design. It literally was revolutionary for me. I mean that was a better education than I think just about anything I've had at a conference, because you actually see how the pieces fit together. I mean, you just can't get that with a talk, even with good diagrams and things.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Right.
but yeah, we're running slowly out of time. Real fast, tell all the nice people where they can find you and where they should be subscribing and liking and Facebooking and doing all the stuff.
And where we can look for news about Igor box.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So we have igorbox.com, like exactly how it's spelled, igorbox.com. There's nothing really there right now other than sort of the basic like splash page, like very, very vague.
If you want to get involved or possibly be a tester for anything, you can contact us on that page. And
There's a form in there. When you fill it out, it comes straight to my phone. And that's where we sort of collect everybody who's interested in beta testing and getting all that stuff. But that's where we drop all the news. Risingorchards.com is sort of the corporate website, I guess.
Real fast while we're on
And
this, though.
of course, Facebook.
I'm sorry, we got a question in. Do you know a timeline for Igor Box?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, I can't believe we didn't cover that.
And Greg
So
asked.
we are planning on launching it, like officially generally available launching Igor Box
at Transworld next year.
at Transworld next year. And we've already been talking with Rich at Transworld about sort of the greater sort of launch idea with Transworld. So we're trying to partner up with Transworld for the actual launch.
For testing, the beginning of testing is going to come probably late summer.
Yeah, so we're starting our beta testing. We'll be reaching out to people that we haven't already reached out to, probably sometime in June is when we should have. Okay, so preface this: supply
That's early
chains.
summer.
as people say, supply chains are bad. They're still bad. So we do. There's a lot of custom electronics involved in this, and there's a lot of like custom manufacturing. So we're relatively hopeful that we will have at least prototype beta testable boards. I have prototype boards, but we're not putting those in anybody's home. But like testable, like ready to go, sort of like prototype boards sometime.
That's actually in a box and not just like hodgepodge.
Not just a bunch of wires and like you're like, oh, don't knock that. Let me just hot glue that down.
If the Igor box is not a box, I would be very disappointed. I have to admit.
It's gonna be a ball. No.
No.
So that'll be sometime in the middle
Okay.
of summer. We'll be contacting people.
So yeah, igorbox.com, and where else do we find you?
RisingOrchards.com is sort of the electronics company and consulting company that we kind of sort of umbrella all this stuff, right? It's actually kind of funny because it usually you end up with like Rising Orchards, and then Rotting Orchards is like a play on the company name.
Mm.
It's the other way around. Rising Orchards is a play on our haunt name.
Rotting Orchards is a Facebook page. If you type in rottingorchards.com,
It'll
you'll
take you to our
straight to Facebook, and you can see what we've done. And if you like YouTube, then it's just Mike and Isa. It's 2 E's and S and A. And that is more of our personal life and our crazy community and everything else.
So
All right.
yeah, you can all of our social stuff is on Igor Box and Rising Orchards, and
To find out about Igor Box, just go to Igor Box.
Yeah. and fill out the form. Like
Seriously.
if you're a single, like if you're a garage haunted house, please fill out the form. Give me some information. We
want it to be usable by everyone. So the best way of doing that is have everybody from every level test it and make sure we get that feedback. So we build a product that you want.
So yeah, igorbox.com. If this sounds like something you're interested in, go.
Yeah,
Just-
check it out.
Just check it out. Well, on that note, everyone, thank you all for joining us for the past hour. Thank you to Mike and Lisa for educating us on so many wonderful things and sharing so many stories. It's so nice to be able to talk to other haunters like this. Please, though, if you are new to Haunt Weekly, check us out at hauntweekly.com, Haunt Weekly on Twitter, Haunt Weekly on Facebook. Subscribe there, definitely, because that's where we do the live stuff.
Yes.
We will also, once we get fully set up, be doing it on our YouTube channel too, youtube.com/hauntweekly. And you can also find us wherever podcasts are distributed, because we're pretty much everywhere. I pay someone to take care of it for me, because screw that. That's a lot of work, and I'll be doing it. Well, on that note, everyone, thank you again for joining us, and we will see you all next week.